Let's face it, everything in life comes in stages, including retirement. And today we'll be discussing the 5 different stages of retirement and ways you can prepare for each new phase. And to help me out on this also important topic is my good friend, David Stearns, president of Stearns Retirement Group, a retirement income store located just outside of Atlanta, Georgia. Dave has helped retirees and those nearing retirement now for more than 20 years. Dave, always great to have you back here on The Income Generation.
Thank you, Dave. Thanks for having me.
So yeah, most people, I don't know if you find this, but I find that most people don't really think about retirement in different stages. I mean, do you find that also?
Yeah, I really do. I find that most people don't really think about retirement much at all until, unfortunately, they get into their 30s and sometimes even their 40s. But when they do think about it, then they're just up against the wall, accumulating, and beyond that, they don't really think much beyond that, actually.
Yeah, I find that to be truthful too most of the time. And so, all right, then what do you tell people are the dangers? When you're trying to educate them about these stages, what do you tell people are the dangers about not really understanding these stages?
Well, Dave, it's kind of like if you were going to go on a long journey in the air on an airplane and you had 3 connecting flights and you only knew your first leg and didn't think about the other 2 legs on that journey, could be a rough flight. So I really try to help people realize that, retirement does come in stages. And I especially often meet people that are in kind of that transitional or what might otherwise be known as that pre-retirement stage. I really want them to know that there's 3 critical stages of retirement coming once they actually retire, and kind of wake them up and get them to think about that. One of the dangers, Dave, is that sometimes they don't know what their goals are in retirement. A lot of times they don't, yet they've got financial strategies in place. And one of the dangers is sometimes those goals and those strategies are actually in conflict.
Yeah, many times they are. We know the early stage of retirement that everyone's excited about, the go-go years, right? But tell me about the Slogo years. What do people need to know in the Slogo years, that mid-retirement range that's also important?
Yeah. Well, that's an important part of retirement. It's really, like you said, it's the mid-range of those 3 stages of retirement once you retire. It's really,
that we call the Slogo years sometimes, right?
Yeah, we call them the Slogo, followed by the no-go. Maybe they can go but don't want to. And previous to that would be those go-go years. But that Slogo mid-range is really important, because there, Dave, people really need to start thinking about their required minimum distributions, right? I mean, at that point, at age 72, they're probably entering into that mid-range, and those RMDs are going to kick in. If they've not been taking income, now they're going to be forced to be taking income, 3.6, 3.7, 4, 4.2%. So that's a pretty big demand on that IRA. And oftentimes, if they're still invested the way they were during the accumulation stage, I want them to understand that can backfire. So they got to be thinking about an income plan for the required minimum distributions. It's also really a good time, Dave, for them to go back and review that estate plan, making sure that their beneficiaries are exactly the way they want them to be. They got to be thinking about long-term care. If they're going to need long-term care, and if they haven't already, that's a real possibility in this mid-range of retirement, or even in the no-go years. And so we want to make sure that we've addressed that carefully, and that they have confidence in knowing what that plan is. And then finally, even talking to their kids. If they haven't yet, this is the stage to really have honest conversations with their children about their wishes for care and afterlife and things like that.
Yeah, I think well said. And of course, as someone who owned really a home health care business for many years, helping people all over your area, I know it's a tough business to run, and I give you a lot of credit and respect the heck out of you for the fact that you did that. It's low profit margin business with a lot of stress, but it's something that people need. And that's something, that you're right, they need to plan for in the mid-range, but in many ways they need to plan for it before retirement too, right?
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Especially that long-term care piece. if insurance is something that they want to do, there's a lot of ways to mitigate the long-term care risk. Insurance is just one of them. But if that was something that would fit them, that's really something that needs to be done more in that transitional pre-retirement, or for sure in the first stage of retirement. You're right, Dave.
Yep.
Yeah.
So the transitional stage, because the transitional stage is the stage where you're getting ahead of the curve a little bit, so you have a chance to prevent major mistakes that could happen in the other stages and set things up right. So what's your most important piece of advice for those watching right now that are in that transitional stage, 10, maybe even 15 years before retirement?
Sure. Yeah, I think, well, heck, if they're 15 years before retirement, I want to make sure that they're heavily positioned in equities, strategically selected, possibly individual equities that pay a lot of good dividends, and taking advantage of dollar cost averaging into the dips and things like that. But if they're more like 10 years, Dave, and really fast approaching retirement, that's going to be the time where I really want to help them identify what their goals are in retirement. If they haven't already, and most of the time they haven't, I really want them to think through it. I really want to draw them out, because what they're going to find is that many of their goals in retirement, lifestyle type goals, are at the end of the day income goals. And so what I want them to realize is, hey, when you do retire, we don't really want to have to sell a share of a stock to go play golf, right? And to do the things that you want to do, even like traveling. So we want to identify the goals, but I would also say for them, it's really critical that they find an income specialist, because, well, frankly, Wall Street isn't that helpful when it comes to helping them figure out rational ways to decumulate what they've spent their lifetime accumulating. And so they really need to find an income specialist during this season as they prepare to create income and permanent income in their 3 stages of retirement.
Final thoughts, David. The stock market had been pretty strong through the end of last year, bouncing around like a yo-yo this year. How does some of this recent volatility and inflation, everything we're seeing right now, affect that decision, or the timing of that decision, or the importance of that decision for those folks in the transitional years?
Yeah. Well, if they're in the transitional years and they think they're going to work for maybe 10 more years, I would say the volatility is a good friend of theirs right now. They still have time to buy some really good equities on sale and hold on to them. Again, we would prefer high yielding dividend paying equities for that strategy. And even with interest rates going up, for those people that are inclined to shift more to a pure income model, not using bond mutual funds, we don't want same old. But if they want to have some really good individually owned and carefully researched income equities, like maybe some individual bond or bond-like instruments, with interest rates going up right now, it's not a bad time to buy some of them and hold them and get them stable, preparing themselves for some really good income in retirement.
They could certainly get a heck of a lot more interest from those today than they could a year ago. So, as usual, some great wisdom there, David Stearns. Thanks so much for being back on The Income Generation.
Thanks for having me back, Dave.
Thank you for watching today's video, 5 stages of retirement and how to help prepare for them. If you've enjoyed it, click the thumbs up button to give us a like, and make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel for new content each and every week.